All right, Chris, we're back here with another week of Silver Shield Behind the Strike. This week, the public release, The Weight of the Wealth, continuing the Death of the Dollar series. And for Silver Shield members, members only release Until This Happens. Both releases go live Thursday, July 16th, 12 p.m. Eastern Time, and are available only for 7 days, running until Thursday, July 23rd at noon Eastern Time. So before we get into these designs, I want to pick up where we left off last week. So last week you said the pullback had not changed the bigger physical story and that silver was still on sale. So after another week in the market, what are you seeing now, and what should physical silver stackers be paying attention to right now?
Well, right now we're in the summer doldrums where we had this big move where silver went from essentially 20 to 120 within a couple months, and then now we're dealing with the aftermath of trying to digest that big move. But the biggest move is still yet to come in physical silver. When I look at times like this to see where I am right now, the first thing I go to is the gold to silver ratio. Right now it's at a 1 to 67 gold to silver ratio, which means that you would have to get 67 ounces of silver for every 1 ounce of gold, but it only comes out of the ground at a 1 to 6 ratio, meaning that silver would have to go up 10 times relative to gold, even without gold even moving, for it to get close to just that moving average. But in reality, it's even way worse than that. The gold to silver ratio of the vaulted ratio is a 6 to 1, meaning that there's 6 times more gold in vaults than there is physical silver. And silver's being used as an industrial metal, and it's being mined out of existence with 10,000 industrial uses. Silver has more patents associated with it than all the other metals combined. So I think there's still a huge move left in physical silver, and once we get past the summer doldrum, it's going to pick up again in the fall. So that's where I try to get people to focus on during this time. This is the time that you should be stacking and upgrading your stacks. Get your ounce count up, and high grade into higher quality pieces like Silver Shield. I think Silver Shield in double digits on eBay is an absolute steal. These coins are very rare and will be part of a huge series that will catch the imagination of all these people when they start collecting physical silver. Silver is at the very pyramid, tip of the pyramid of Exeter's pyramid of $2.5 quadrillion worth of liquidity in the world. The world will rush from a illiquid assets into the most liquid assets, and this will go down from all the illiquid assets that are digital illusions of wealth like cryptocurrency, stocks, bonds, even real estate will flow down into gold, eventually silver, and at the very tip of that, Silver Shield. And that's what I've been working on for the last 15 years, is to get people to get to the very end of this line and realize that Silver Shield is going to be the most valuable of all the silver that's out there.
So a question that comes up, what does quality of ounces mean when the goal is not just weight but long-term collectability?
I think the defining thing is, would you try to sell your friends and family on why you've invested in physical silver with this particular coin? To me, generic government bullion doesn't elicit a huge story. Yeah, it's neat. I remember the first time I ever held a silver eagle. And I remember back in 2004 or 5 when I first held one, and I was like, I can't do anything with this. I don't understand what the purpose of having a silver dollar coin, because it's worth more than a dollar that they have listed on it. But when I created Silver Shield coins, now each one of them comes with a story, and it gives, hopefully around the time of when you woke up, that this design resonated with you, and then that's making for a higher quality strike for you to hold in your treasure. Ultimately, these coins are going to be passed down from generation to generation. So do you want to see your family with generic government bullion, or would you rather have part of that stash be part of the Silver Shield series that has been out there for 15 years challenging government mints? The government is what's destroying our currency, and most silver stackers are out running up in line to go buy generic government bullion instead of looking for a private solution like Silver Shield has done. And I think over time, whether this happens or not, Silver Shield is going to become the most collectible of all collectibles out there, because of the limited mintages that we did over the last 15 years, that there's nothing smaller out there. I just did a quick little research on Pokemon. It's been around for 30 years, and they've done 39 billion cards that they've printed, and the most expensive Pokemon card just recently sold for $16.5 million. Silver Shield's been around for just half that time and has much tighter mintages and is made from real physical silver at the time that all the other digital illusions of wealth are going to collapse. So I think that Silver Shield is going to become the most collectible coin out there, to the point where individuals who carry Silver Shield mini mintages as their carry piece, those are the ones that have the highest quality pieces, and it's going to be a reflection of their overall series. They may not all have Silver Shield, but I believe that anybody that collects at least one Silver Shield, it will be a king in my book after all this happens. Kings when all the Ponzi planet collapses, all central banks, corporations, and governments collapse of the same market in excess of the Ponzi popping all at the same time.
So let's start with the public release, the weight of wealth. This image, an American worker is down on one knee carrying a money printing machine, while a skeleton figure sits above him feeding the machine and paper currency pours out. So where did this idea begin, and what did you want people to feel before they read the title?
Well, when I first saw this, it was a meme that I had seen, and it had a good-looking banker on top laughing and counting his money. So the one thing I definitely wanted to change was to make it into a skull bankster, because these are merchants of death. We're stuck in a systemic, satanic slavery that we can never get out of as long as we allow them to control the issuance of money. So this is a graphic representation and has more meaning behind it than a generic government bullion that would see that we were trying to beg for our own liberty, when in fact we need to stack for our own sovereignty.
Now, the title is The Weight of the Wealth. By the man doing the work is being crushed by.
Yes.
Right? So what does the contradiction say about the kind of wealth this system creates?
I think what it shows is just how strong the average American is in holding up this whole system. We have a government that's raping us with inflation every year and setting up all sorts of trouble for us with our devaluing our currency and inflating it away. So the only way I think that you can protect yourself is for that individual to put down the money press and value system that the dollar projects and stack real physical silver outside the system, because it's an asymmetrical warfare where once we pull an ounce out of silver, that's 1 ounce that cannot be leveraged in their paper Ponzi scheme. There's almost 400 paper contracts for each physical ounce on the COMEX and the LBMA, and that by pulling physical silver out and stacking it generationally, knowing that you're going to hold on to this for the kids and grandkids to create generational wealth, is a asymmetrical way of defeating the system by withdrawing your support and withdrawing your wealth out of the system and putting it into your sovereign central bank. Essentially, you become your own central bank, and that's the only way out of this rigged financial system that's been manipulated with paper currency like you see in the coin.
So now people hear money printing, currency debasement, and inflation all the time, but these phases can sound abstract. In daily life, how does that machine take from workers' paycheck, savings, retirement, and their future?
I mean, the easiest answer is just look around at how expensive everything is. A dollar doesn't buy what it used to. You used to be able to go into, Blockbuster and rent a video for 99 cents. Now it costs you almost $18 to go see a movie. The price of gas has gone up. The insurance has gone up. Medical things have gone up. Our taxes, our property taxes, our income tax, everything's going up in value, and it's because they're devaluing the currency in doing this. So it shows up in the cost of everything going up. The purchasing power of your dollars that you have in your system go down every day. Every bondholder that's holding out for 5% is probably losing 5% a year because inflation's running at 10%. And this is just the beginning. We're going to have a hyperinflation. There's no way that this doesn't end in a hyperinflation, because this is a global generational debt-based fiat Ponzi scheme that the entire world is stuck on. And it's going to end in the single largest transference of wealth the world has ever seen out of digital illusions of wealth into physical silver, I believe, at the most extreme end of this.
This coin continues the death of the dollar series. Do you see the dollar dying in one dramatic event, or through a long erosion that people slowly accept as normal?
I hope it ends quickly. I hope it ends fast. I hope it ends in one day. I hope that there's such a dramatic change in the system that the markets freeze up, that the politicians get arrested, the banksters get arrested, the Epstein class gets arrested, because the system seizes up. And I think the only way that that's going to happen is if for physical silver to default on all three of the major markets, the LBMA, CMA, the COMEX, and the Shanghai, where physical silver sells out. The miners hold out their production from the clearinghouses. The miners strike, that the stackers strike, that millions of new people suddenly become spiritually enlightened to go out and buy physical silver, as this is the only means of defeating this evil. There's no other way of physically defeating this evil short of St. Michael coming down and striking Satan on the head. The only way that we can beat the system is to stack physical silver outside the system until there's no more physical silver left, and that there's a default, and that default will lead a catastrophic collapse of the brokers, the banks, and the governments that have been manipulating the system with paper manipulation for hundreds of years, and that it all ends in one dramatic fashion.
Now, the write-up calls people to reject the paper illusion and move towards sound money. So for an ordinary person who is just beginning, what does that transition actually look like? Does it begin with large purchase or with changing how somebody actually understands money?
If I was a new stacker starting all over again, I would buy constitutional silver, which is our old silver coins, and start to value your whole life in constitutional money. It used to be in the biblical times that you would work a 12-hour shift out in the field and only earn a silver denarius, which was about a silver dime a day, about a tenth of an ounce of silver, and that little teeny fraction of little silver would represent a day's worth of hard human labor. So I would start with any stacker to start with that, because every single dime that you collect is another day's worth of hard human labor that you don't have to use on the other side. I think that silver is going to be worth so much that silver's not even going to be used as money, that you'll be lucky to get a tenth of an ounce of silver for a hard day's worth of human labor, especially now that we're entering an age of AI and robotics, where they're going to price out all humanity from human labor and creative price the humans out of the market, and you won't even be able to transfer labor into physical silver in the future. That's why I think this is the last great gasp of people who can get out there and stack physical silver ahead of this world transforming transference of wealth from digital illusions of wealth to the physical wealth. And Silver Shield is at the very tip of this. It's a very microcosm of all silver stacking out there. You don't get to find Silver Shield without going through a lot of hurdles. And once you do, you realize that you're tapped into something that is historic and that will be around and appreciated for generations to come.
Now let's move to until this happened. Last week, while we were discussing vote out every incumbent, you said nothing would really change until the people operating above the visible political system face consequences.
Yes.
Now, this release seems to pick up exactly there. So what was, until this happened, intentionally designed as the next step from that conversation?
It's basically saying, if you can't vote them out, arrest them out. The problems I see are so large that it's going to take an act of God or military tribunals or something of a massive scale that's going to come in. And I think that that's going to happen when the global markets seize up. And that the only way the market's going to seize up is if silver sells out and defaults and leads to a catastrophic chain of events of counterparty risk between the brokers, the banks, and the governments that have been manipulating the price of silver down for years to give rise to their own currency. So I think that the only way that this is going to happen is that silver is going to be the central figure of this, and there will be the most desired asset. I call it the apex alpha asset is Silver Shield at the very top of all the other assets out there, because people are going to flee the quantum financial reality that is going to happen with quantum warfare, that if all these major state actors start fighting against each other, they're going to attack their banking systems and the economy too. It's not just going to allow that to get away. And I think that's going to drive people away from intangible counterparty risk, debt-based digital illusions of wealth that we've grown accustomed to, and rush back into gold, silver, and eventually Silver Shields.
For this design, you chose faceless men in suits rather than recognizable politicians or public figures. They're facing the back of the head.
Yeah.
So why was it important to make them symbols of the system instead of turning the coin into either individuals or a group of individuals?
I basically wanted to say that it's not just one guy or one party, it's global. This is a global generational debt-based fiat Ponzi scheme, and that the same problems that the United States government has with foreign governments entangling themselves into our system and to get us to spend our treasure fighting foreign wars and having false flags and hyperinflating the currency and all these other things, that what we're seeing in the United States is reflective of the West in general, where all politicians globally globally are under the same blackmail system, the same bribery system, the same blackmail that they use to control these politicians. And it's going to take something massive. God has got to come back. The military's got to have tribunals. Silver's got to be defaulted upon. Something of that major thing is going to happen. And I'm keep trying to draw attention and focus on these issues with these particular coins in the hopes that they become worth far more as they tell a story that will not be told any other way. All of the work that I've done on social media, the YouTube channels, the videos, the blogs, the interviews, all the stuff has been wiped off the internet, and these coins are still persisting after 15 years of me telling the story of the greatest truth on eternal silver.
People are repeatedly told that the next election, the next party, the next leader will fix everything, right? So why can replacing names leave the structure untouched?
Because look at what happened with Trump. We voted for no wars and $2 gas and have all this other stuff, and we've gone right into this major wars all over the place, and it's destroying the dollar. And I think they can see that Trump was running for years to get to this place, and he finally has a Republican mandate. And what did they do? They voted almost to merge the Israeli genocidal military with our military in this past Senate vote, where they narrowly lost only because the Democrats put together a thing. I've never thought I'd say this, but I'm glad the Democrats were the ones that were able to stop the Republicans. I've been a diehard Republican from all my life, and here's this one vote showing that they're all traitors, that they would sell their country out for Israel, that they would give this nation of 10 million people that are currently committing genocide in Gaza full access to $1.5 trillion of our military-industrial complex, and give them free reign over every bit of intelligence and technology. And we came within 4 votes of that becoming thing. So this is where I think the United States military has got to wake up. We've come very close to being taken over legislative basis, but it's still, the problem is persisting, and the fact that they are able to try it says that they think it's close enough to get done. And it's up to the United States military to wake up and conduct military tribunals that would seek out all these traitorous. This is treason. If you take money from a foreign government and then vote for the foreign government to take over your military, how is that not treason? Benedict Arnold didn't even do anything as bad as that. And yet we have 46 Republican senators now on record showing that they would trade the votes and the power of the American people over to Israeli delegates that would want to take over our country. This is my push to get the United States military to wake up, to conduct military tribunals and arrest these people. And that's the only way I think that we're going to be able to fight back.
Chris, this coin, until this happens, this isn't a series that I haven't touched too much this year. Do you want to talk about it a little bit and break it down?
It's part of the Apocalyptomyst Series, and the whole point of this series is to say that the apocalypse is going to happen, that the revelation is going to happen, that the whole world is going to be seen as a complete fraud, and that there's something good that can come out of this. And that I'm actually optimistic that we can do this. And the only way that I think they can be optimistic about it is to have your wealth transferred from this paradigm into the next paradigm. And silver is going to be in this unique position of all other assets out there, more than gold, more than Bitcoin, more than the dollar, more than bonds, more than stocks, more than real estate, more than cryptocurrencies, that silver is going to become this unobtainium asset where there will be massive technological, financial, military, banking, demand for physical silver that will exceed all the other production out there. And that in this Apocalyptomyst series, that something good can come out of this, that the evil is going to go down in one day, and the good people are going to go from the rich will become poor and the poor will become rich, and that the means of that transformation will be the physical silver becoming worth priceless. Like, it'll be viewed as family heirlooms. Like, you'll be lucky to have it, like a winning lottery ticket that from a previous age where you were able to buy up physical silver at, where are we at now? $60 an ounce before it reaches hyperinflation. I constantly share online the value of silver in Weimar, Germany, one of the last hyperinflations to happen. Not that there hasn't been any other ones in Zimbabwe and Venezuela, but showing that physical silver goes from 60 marks all the way up to trillions of marks, where 1 ounce of silver would buy up a whole block of houses during the hyperinflation, during the collapse. And this is going to be a global situation where there's going to be a global hyperinflation where there's going to be a crack up boom. I predict that there's going to be a sellout of physical silver that's going to lead to counterparty risk collapse of brokers, banks, and governments that have been manipulating paper physical silver, give rise to their currencies' purchasing powers. That's all of a sudden going to end, and that they're going to force these central banks and governments to print unlimited amount of money for force majeure or cash settlement of these derivative contracts that are sitting on top of the paper silver market. There's trillions of dollars of derivatives that are flying against the paper silver market, and that they're going to all of a sudden collapse. And that's going to lead to massive money printing, which is going to force other people to get out of these risky digital illusion of wealth assets into gold, eventually silver, and then finally silver shield. And that's going to be the end of it. Silver shield's going to become unobtainium. It would be the first silver to sell out of all the other silver out there on the market because it's so small, and that we've been pressing forward for 15 years over this, and that eventually we're going to reach millions of people who are going to suddenly want to have at least one silver shield to remember the guy that woke them up to the single largest transference of wealth. Future generations are going to bless them because of the guy that woke them up to physical silver, and get them to commit not only just to buying physical silver, but selling out all your other assets out there to get fully committed into physical silver shield as the way of transferring your wealth from this paradigm to the other paradigm.
The financial reset that you expect actually happens. What moral responsibility comes with being prepared?
I think you definitely, the way I view it is that all the silver stackers are going to be essentially kings, like in legit kings. Like they're going to be have more money than the Bank of the Kings of England had. King of England ran on tally sticks, wooden tally sticks, for over 800 years on England because they didn't have physical silver. And yet all these silver stackers are going to have historical silver stacks that will not be matched in other time period of history for an average person to be able to collect that many physical ounces of physical silver throughout time and history, so that these stackers are going to become kings. This is going to come at the exact same time that corporations, central banks, and governments are going to collapse. So the major powers that were built up off of the Ponzi scheme are going to collapse at the same time, avoid collapse, showing how inept and not powerful that they are. And at the exact same time, these silver stacking kings will have unobtainium wealth. The wealth that they have will be immeasurable because they would never sell it for fiat money that's being printed out of nowhere during a crack-up boom. And that these kings are going to see their friends and neighbors surrounded themselves with medical bills, mortgages, car payments, tax bills, property taxes, all this other stuff. And that the 1 ounce of physical silver will be more than enough to pay for an entire mortgage in a hyperinflation. And I think that's where we're ultimately going to go. A global hyperinflation that's going to sell out silver, that's going to make it worth more than all of the debts that are out there. And that silver shield stackers are going to be this unique group at the very top that will have silver shields that will be worth far more than all the other physical silver out there. So I see these kings coming out to this collapsed paradigm of Ponzi scheme where their friends and family are going to be still trapped inside all this debt because it's a debt-based fiat system, and that I think these kings are going to rule the people around them by getting rid of all their debt, and these people will be eternally grateful for the people who stacked silver and were able to help pay off their debts that they have at the end of this Ponzi scheme.
All right, Chris, for someone watching who feels financially trapped and politically powerless, what is one real step they can take today to become less dependent on the system?
Definitely stacking silver. And I placed myself back 20 years in what I would do to start over again. And I told you to buy constitutional silver. The reason for that is that's also the first layer of a buffer that you're going to have. When this happens, the whole system's going to collapse, and that silver's going to be worth a lot. So you want to have barter pieces around, and I think old silver is a great way of using barter in a collapsed economy, because you don't want to take your proof, coin out there and go buy, bread for that. You want to take a silver dime and be able to barter that for food, because you can't store enough of it. I mean, I have storable food that says it lasts for 20 years. You're going to need more than that. And the silver is the best way of being able to buy anything you need on the other side will be transferable with physical silver when the dollar dies. But for more advanced stackers who've been in this game like I have for 20 years, there's a limit to how much constitutional silver that you would want to have in there, and that you want to have pieces that are going to be not used for barter, that you're going to use to transfer into next generation. And I think Silver Shield's going to play this unique piece in history. Nobody's ever done what I've done over this. For 15 years, I've put the greatest truth onto eternal silver. I've covered conspiracy theories, the COVID vax attack, the Republican, the false left-right paradigm, also false flags, never forget series, never trust government series, all sorts of stuff. I've done over 600, 700 different designs, and that they're going to become more, they say more, they mean more, and they're going to be worth more. And that the way to get involved in this, if you're new to this, join the Silver Shield group. It's $7 a month, and I'll give you exclusive access to the Silver Shield group, where I tend to put my more controversial designs and more meaningful designs on the Silver Shield group. And if for $77 a month they give you access to that, people are paying that for a Netflix account to watch garbage, woke programming. You can at least do this to be part of the very unique group. There's only a couple hundred people that are in the Silver Shield group. And then I think on the other side, that the Silver Shield group stackers are going to get together, and that they're going to form an empire, a kingdom of Silver Shield stackers, of these suddenly wealthy people who are going to have access to this huge silver stacks that are going to be more powerful than most kings of England that they had, and that we're going to get together and build amazing castles and mountaintop retreats and new civilizations and hardcore the sixth root race of evolution of humanity. That's what's going to come after this collapse, that there's going to be another way of building a new civilization. And then I think the Silver Shield group is going to be this unique group of stackers that the world has ever seen, this exclusive group, and it only costs $7 to get in it. But once this happens, this transference of wealth happens and silver becomes worth it on Obtainium. It's going to be impossible for you to stack physical silver the way that you can do right now. With silver down at $60, it's half off of its all-time high. And then we're going to blow through that on the other side into reaching a hyperinflation. That's the only way out of this system. That there's going to be a crack-up boom, the markets are going to fail, that central banks are going to print, the governments are going to spend money, and it's going to lead to a rush out of all digital illusions of wealth that are going to crack up higher. But the real value of silver relative to all other assets, the gold to silver ratio, the gold to Dow ratio, the silver to Dow ratio, and the silver to home ratio, are all going to collapse relative physical silver going up in value, and that having physical Silver Shield is going to put you at the premier top place of all the other silver out there.
This week public release is The Weight of Wealth. The Silver Shield group members only release is Until This Happens. Both releases go live Thursday, July 16th, 2026 at 12 p.m. Eastern Time, and will be available for only 7 days until next Thursday, July 23rd, noon Eastern Time. You can find both of these releases at Chris Duane SilverShieldCoins.com. Click the new release section. Chris, again, thank you for walking us through the meaning, the message behind these releases, and thank everyone for watching. We'll see everyone next week for another episode of Silver Shield Behind the Strike.
All right, thank you very much.